Hi everyone, Richard here at Calvin Wazoo bringing you another video. And before I get started with this one, which is going to be hopefully a thread, I really would like to start a thread. Just a couple other business items. If you don't know, I also have a Facebook page called Calvin Wazoo. I post my videos there as well. But I also post other content, other music videos, other articles, and information about music, etc. So it might be, page. Please check it out and like if you like. And then the another one is called Frank Zappa's Revenge. So again, whenever I'm doing something like part of my series of Frank Zappa one album at a time, I will post the video on that page as well. But again, like with the Calvin Wazoo general Facebook page, I have other articles and videos that are Frank Zappa related and other information. So there's more than just a place for me to, post videos. So check out those Facebook pages and, like them if you choose. So now for today's video, I would like to start a thread. And the thread is show us 5 to 10 albums that were released when you were 14 or the year you turned 14. And some caveats to go with this. So one is they should be records that were released and that you were listening to when you were 14. So for example, the Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street was released when I was 14, but I wasn't listening to the Rolling Stones much. So I have that album now, but I did not buy it then, and nor was I really listening to it when I was 14. The other is you still need to have the albums. So again, for example, Uriah Heep had a couple albums that were released when I was 14. There was Magician's Birthday and Demons and Wizards. I had them at the time, but I do not have them anymore. Again, they should be records that were released the year you turned 14. So, one way you could interpret it to be, all right, I turned 14, so it would be the rest of the year, and then the next year, and so it would be like for 2 years, from my birthday until the month before. Let's make it simpler. Just say for the whole calendar year in which you turned 14, those are the records we're going to be talking about. And then the other one, some artists, like I mentioned, Uriah Heep had 2 records released in that same year. Let's limit it to 1 for, per artist. So for example, I'm going to be showing a release from Frank Zappa the year I was 14, but there were 2 records that were released. I'm only going to show 1. Why 14? I kind of believe that 14 is, for most of us, a pretty important age in terms of how our musical tastes were formed and where our focus in our collecting records and the types of music we listen to, it was formed about that time. Certainly, I was listening to records much earlier, and I had some likes, very distinct likes, formed by the time I was 10 or 11 years old. But I really didn't start buying records until I was maybe 12 or 13 and 14, and 14 being a year where that's really when my record collection started to grow. So it's a good snapshot of our musical tastes. And certainly our musical tastes have changed over time. Mine certainly have. But what I was buying and listening to the year I was 14 still pretty much dominates what I would identify as my favorite genres. So let's get started. First one to show is a really amazing album in so many ways. One of the first records I ever bought, and it's this David Bowie, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. When this album came out and I listened to it for the first time, it just blew my mind. It was incredible. Of course, this was also about, when I was 14, this is when I started smoking pot. And this is, one of the first records I listened to under the influence. It remains a fabulous record. It remains a very important record. I still listen to it. Ironically, it's not my favorite Bowie record, but it certainly has my favorite Bowie song is on that one, which happens to be Lady Stardust. But yeah, great album. I mean, Moon Age Daydream, Ziggy Stardust, Soul, Love, Rock and Roll, Suicide, Suffragette City. God, there's just so many great songs, on this record. So that was one from when I was 14. Another one is this Lou Reed, Transformer. Again, another just incredible album, in my opinion. Great songs, Vicious, Perfect Day, Hanging Around, Walking the Wild Side, Satellite of Love, Wagon. God, this is just, again, so many good songs on this record. This is, obviously a reissue with all the hype stickers, because, I had it at the time and was listening to it, but then I, lost it, and so I ended up needing to get a new one. But yeah, Lou Reed, Transformer. Been a total Lou Reed fan ever since. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Frank Zappa had a couple albums released. I'm going with this one, largely because it was very contrary to what my friends and I, were kind of listening to. So, Hot Rats, Waka Jawaka. This was a brilliant album. When I first saw it in the store, I bought it immediately and I began listening to it. And it was nothing like any Frank Zappa or Mothers of Invention I had heard before. That same year was the album Just Another Band from LA. So a lot of his music of that era, was with the Flo and Eddie, the comedy type of music, prurient content. And, for a 13 and 14-year-old, that was great stuff. It's still really good stuff. But when I saw this was just this jazz fusion sound that was coming out. It was just totally remarkable. And, I played it for some friends of mine who, we were listening to, like, just another band from LA, or, 200 Motels and a lot of that type of Mothers and Zappa music. And I didn't like this. They liked the comedy stuff better. And frankly, I really, really loved this. Part of it might have been, too, that, I was in school band and I was playing saxophone. So that genre of music really, really appealed to me. All right, another one from that year, Harvest, Neil Young. A timeless album that I really cannot say enough good things about. I even did a presentation in high school English class, interpreting the song Words. And I had an epiphany right in the middle of my presentation when something suddenly dawned on me. But yeah, just such a wonderful album in terms of the way it sought to bridge what, was known to us at the time as the generation gap. And, just like the song Old Man, old man, take a look at my life. I'm a lot like you were. That notion that there really isn't that much difference between us, and yet politics and you know, the Vietnam War and all that of the time was creating this chasm between the generations. And this was a very heartfelt attempt to bridge that chasm. Now, this isn't really cheating, even though I'm going to show two records, because they're two releases of the same record. And the reason I'm showing two of them is, all right, we've got Deep Purple, made in Japan. For a really, well, you know, actually, when I think about it, this still is the only Deep Purple I own. And it just was a remarkable live album. You know, with Smoke on the Water, so many great songs. Sweet Child in Time, Strange Kind of Woman, Space Truck. Oh God, they're just also great. The interesting thing is that, you know, this concert was recorded. Oh yeah, it was recorded the same year. Okay. It was just earlier in that year, because this was not released until December of the year I turned 14. The other one I wanted to show is I also got the Japanese version of the album, which, while the one for Western release in Europe and the United States, North America, was called Made in Japan, this one is called Live in Japan. That's how it was named for the Japanese market. Different cover, but the exact same record. You know, and I just, you know, I just had to own it, you know. I mean, the record, made in Japan, the Japanese pressing. Another one that came out the year I was 14, we got Alice Cooper, School's Out. This, of course, I had to buy again because I lost it. And while the copy that I bought when I was 14 had the paper panties in it, you know, to find a copy with them, I mean, they're lost for the most part. If you don't have your OG from that time and you don't have the paper panties that came with it, then, you know, it's going to be really hard to find a copy with that, because, you know, just about everybody lost them or they got thrown away or whatever. I mean, they were only paper. They were not that durable. I like School's Out. In fact, I like side one though a lot better than side two. But I do like both sides of the album. I will say that, however, Killer is my favorite release. Barnstorm by Joe Walsh. So you can kind of see at that time, I was pretty much into heavy rock, guitar-driven rock and roll, with some other, you know, very interesting, you know, when you think of like David Bowie or Lou Reed, you know, there was a glam element in my musical tastes as well. But Barnstorm is still a total gem for me. I still listen to it frequently. You know, Bird Call Morning is, I mean, the hit was Turn to Stone, but Bird Call Morning to me remains just an incredibly beautiful song. Now, I listened to this one a lot when I bought this Moody Blues 7th Sojourn. I was a Moody Blues fan ever since Days of Future Past, which I didn't own, but I heard it like when I was, gosh, when did that was released? That was like 1968 or something like that. So I would have been like 10 or 11 years old. And so this is one that I had a lot of Moody Blues. It's a great recording. Lost in a Lost World, For My Lady. I always loved that song, For My Lady. I'm Just a Singer in a Rock and Roll Band, of course, was the hit off of that. But all just a really nice, solid album. You know, Moody Blues albums are pretty easy to find in good condition for really cheap. I mean, this is not the original one that I owned at that time. As I said in other videos, I lost that collection, but you know, I got this one for like $3. Now, one also that I really, really liked that came out when I was 14, As Thick as a Brick. Didn't quite understand at the time that this was a parody of prog rock, but it's, you know, the best parodies are also the best examples, you know. I mean, Frank Zappa and his parodies of doo-wop are so great because he loved the genre so much and understood it so well that he could do great songs of his own or covers of doo-wop pieces and just really make them his own because he understood the music so well. Thick as a Brick, even though it was designed to be mocking prog rock, is just a brilliant prog rock coup. And this is the, you know, the release with the original newspaper, you know, inside here, a little on the yellow side, you know, from age. But again, wonderful, wonderful record that I was listening to. And now the last one from when I was 14, one of my favorites of the Grateful Dead, European tour. And you know, what else can I say about it? It's just one of the better recorded live albums that were released. This was largely before a lot of dick pics and other quote-unquote boots were being released. These were official releases by the band. Not all of them were great. Steal Your Face had some issues with sibilance and some other recording issues. But this one is a solid, great triple album that really captured the Grateful Dead at pretty close to the peak of their career. I mean, they still had a lot of great stuff coming afterward, but this album is definitely one I'm glad I have. You know, I was listening to it at the time. I'm still listening to it. It's a great album. So there you go. There's 10 albums. You can show anywhere from 5 up to 10. You know, let's kind of keep it, you know, limited to no more than 10. I mean, this video is approaching 20 minutes. Otherwise, you know, we're all going to be taking too much time. But yeah, show us what you were listening to, what was released when you were 14 and you were listening to at that time when you were 14. Give us a little window of what was going on in your musical head at the time. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you participate in this thread. You know, let me know, comment when you post one on your channel, if you do one. If you don't post videos, just leave a comment with a list of the 5 to 10 albums from when you were 14 that you bought when they were released. It would be great to see that. And always remember, pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.